Welcome, and thanks for tuning in to our latest ManpowerGroup 2020 Workforce Analytics Update. I'm Raylene Gagnon, Vice President of Global Market Intelligence at ManpowerGroup Talent Solutions. My goal is to deliver the most important facts that you need to know about what's happening in the labor market right now during COVID-19, along with what you need to consider as an employer to make the smartest decisions for your organization. So let's get into it. In the past week, as many states and organizations began their approach towards the phased reopening, the U.S. unemployment approached 15% for the first time in quite a number of years. But despite that, we have nearly 6 million jobs available in the United States today. And you can see, as different organizations have begun to shift their strategies, how that has spread across the United States. So while we initially saw more essential employees being sought in key areas where infection rates were highest, we're now starting to see a number of locations being driven by commerce within those areas and their approach to the phased reopening. Now, these jobs represent both essential and non-essential personnel across the United States, and we've seen them break down in a number of different ways. First and foremost, one of the things that I would mention is that we've continued to see an increase in part-time jobs as a percentage of total jobs available across the country. In fact, that's increased another 2.5% just in the past week. So whereas we were a little under 25% at the beginning of this year, that has increased incrementally since lockdown began, and now we're approaching 37% in May. That's as a percentage of all of the jobs available in the U.S., many of which are driven by manufacturing, retail, grocery, logistics, and warehouse opportunities. But there's something to be said for customer service as well as other skills that can be brought on an hourly basis. 19% of the new jobs posted in May do not specify a specific location, which indicates continued remote work opportunity in the future. So these are a few trends that we began to see emerging a few weeks ago that continue as phased reopening occurs. One other thing I would mention is that nearly 14% of all of the jobs available at the moment are actually still contracted through staffing agencies, suggesting contract work or temporary labor. Another key thing to think about as organizations reopen is that they do have a large pool of candidates potentially to pull from as far as workers that had been displaced when they initially shut down. So not all jobs that are resuming are necessarily reflected in the job postings that we're able to analyze on a regular basis. That's an important thing to consider as we think about how many of the unemployed population today may be working part-time or returning to their previous workplace. So we want to think about that as we think about how competition will shift moving forward throughout the year. A few things to think about from an employment standpoint too is thinking about your existing workforce and how to message out to them proactively. A number of organizations in the past weeks have announced how they will be approaching remote work and flexible schedules moving forward over the course of the remainder of the year and certainly throughout the summer, as many of us are still dealing with phased reopenings in various states across the country. If you've not yet made that determination, looking at the data within your organization to make those decisions and communicating them out efficiently is certainly a key area of best practice. Another thing to consider from a competitive standpoint is that organizations who have halted potential operations in the past have shifted or potentially expanded their operations to support existing needs within the business from a COVID-19 standpoint. We have chemical companies and distilleries that are making hand sanitizer. We have automotive companies and other manufacturers working together to produce masks that are well needed by society as well as by medical personnel. We have flooring companies that have actually reshifted their production floor, reallocated their staff, and are supporting and building up medical supplies, including gowns and masks and face shields to help support the community and meet those in need. We have shoe manufacturers who have adjusted their own production lines in order to produce face masks within their organization and for their communities, and other manufacturers who have worked on face shields, potentially using advanced technology like 3D printers to create some of those parts and accelerate our production opportunities. All of this requires advanced skills and opportunities and has continued to shift the hiring patterns. So these are all things to consider as we move forward, and our team will continue to monitor the markets and workforce trends daily. I'll come back to you next week with the latest. Stay tuned, and until then, stay healthy.